Welcome to the Downtown Madison Happenings podcast, where we hear from our members and learn something new about downtown Madison. This podcast is brought to you by American Family Insurance. American Family opened its first office in downtown Madison in 1927, and its downtown presence continues today with the Spark Building, which is home to the American Family Institute for Corporate and Social Impact and the Dream Bank, an inspirational community space. Still based in Madison, American Family Insurance Company's mission is to inspire, protect, and restore dreams through exceptional products, services, and community partners. Today, we have another long community partner here with us today, Russ McDuffie, the president of Madison Media Partners, who works with our great friends at the State Journal and the Cap Times and Madison.com and WisNews.com to bring us the news and to make sure that we are a community that is brought together through information sharing. So we are so thankful to have our good friend Ross here with us today. Ross, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Jason. It is a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Now, it's our pleasure. I'm a rabid reader of everything you all put out every single morning. I love reading the State Journal. I hope I'm not in it too often in a negative way. Only in good, positive ways, but that's not why we're here today. It's not about me. It's about Ross. Let's just get into it because I think some of our members might not have heard of Madison Media Partners. It's a relatively new venture coming together. Tell us more about, where it came from and what are the advantages of forming a partnership like this.
So it wouldn't be surprising, Jason, if a lot of your listeners have not heard of Madison Media Partners. They have more likely heard of one of our many brands. You started listing some of them in the introduction there, and that is certainly something that we find ourselves doing literally every time we meet anybody. The reason why most people have likely not heard of Madison Media Partners by now is that it in itself is a fairly new brand. For about 18 years, our organization, the organization I lead, represented itself to the community as capital newspapers. So there's a fairly large contingency out in the Madison region of people that know us by that name. But the reality is that I came into the organization in September of 2020. And what was pretty clear to me was that we are and will continue to be a local news organization, but that we were no longer just a newspaper company. And we could talk a little bit more about what that means, but we felt like it was really important as quickly as possible to establish a brand that kind of represented more of our future than it did in our past. And that's where Madison Media Partners comes from. What Madison Media Partners is much of what you've already described, the two kind of most public-facing parts of that brand, the Wisconsin State Journal, the Capital Times, Madison.com, WisNews.com, CapTimes.com. There's many others as well, though, that cover communities up in Dodge, Juneau, Sauk, and Columbia County. We have journalists that are covering all of those communities. And of course, our bread and butter is covering the greater Madison region through those channels. But those channels are diverse, and the print product that hits mailboxes and doorsteps on a daily basis, super important, still very important way that we reach an audience. We still have a lot of people that depend on that and consider it an essential part of their day. But it is not the only way that we tell stories and that we hold the powerful accountable and that we shine light in dark corners. There are lots of other ways we do that now. We're really trying hard to make sure we meet our audience where they are. And we felt like Madison Media Partners was a more appropriate brand to represent the partnership and to represent what we do every day and how we bring what we do to our growing audience.
You have a catalog of different ways different mediums to get your messages and stories across. I think you kind of hit it, how important it is to local journalism can be to our community, but you have so many different platforms. Tell us about the strength of things like Madison.com, right? I mean, you have just thousands of people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people going every day. Why is Madison.com and CapTimes.com and WisNews.com such an important part of the model for local journalism moving forward?
Yeah, so there's this kind of myth in the world of local journalism, Jason, that there are fewer people reading our content. And I think what gets mixed up there is that there are not as many people as there were 10 or 15 years ago reading the print version of our product. And that would be true. But the reality and the positive part of that is there are more people by a wide margin consuming our products, our content on a daily basis than we've ever had before. And candidly, it's not even close. When we look at our websites, those that you just listed off there, we have about 4.5 million people on a monthly basis from, of course, the greater Madison region, but also from Milwaukee, from Green Bay, from the River Valley, Northern Illinois, Chicago, the upper Midwest, really. That's what Madison.com and our family of sites represent. Cap Times, we do know, is very Madison-centric. Madison.com reaches a little further than that. But the websites are certainly a big piece of it. Our social channels, where we're active across just about every different social channel out there. We're starting to get more active in TikTok. We have about 400,000 followers across our social channels. That's a huge feeder of viewers to our content. It's where a lot of people go to consume their news now. I'm not in the school of belief that it is necessarily a bad thing to get your news via social. I do think it's important that you be careful about where you get your news from on social channels and that we're doing that in a responsible way. We also have emails that go out on a daily basis. We have about 40,000 email subscribers that get our content delivered directly to them. That could be anything from what is the weather going to look like today? We have a dedicated meteorologist on staff that works entirely on what the forecast is going to look like for southern Wisconsin on a daily basis. It could be, what am I going to do this weekend? It could be what happened at the city council meeting last night. And we take a lot of pride in being able to be essential to each person that consumes our content, but in a different way. Essential means something different to everybody's daily schedule and their daily lives. We want to make sure that we're in the best place to give them something essential, no matter what that is, and to deliver it to them in a format that they feel comfortable with and a way they like to consume news. Things I haven't talked about, podcasts are becoming extremely popular. We have niche content like Badger Extra, where we've just introduced a premium subscription just for diehard Badger fans, no matter where they may live. In fact, we have a lot of audience members for Badger Extra that come from way outside of the upper Midwest and Badgers that have traveled all over the country and the world. And we have live events, of course, throughout the year as well. This is something that we've gotten very into over the last couple of years, ranging from Cap Times Idea Fest to our top workplaces, the Executive Breakfast Series that we're proud to host downtown, and as a new addition to our slate. These are all ways that we can make sure that we remain essential and that we meet our audience where they are.
There was a lot in that answer. I mean, 4.5 million different people every single month. This is just an incredible statistic. And it does tell you that people are consuming news in different ways. But you used, I think, an interesting term. You said essential. That's essential for them. Why is your coverage, particularly of local news, right? What's happening at City Hall, what's happening at the state capitol, what's happening with the Badgers, why is that still essential to the civic discourse here in our country, and in particularly our region here in Madison?
Yeah, so there's two ways that I look at the word essential. The first way is what a consumer of our content considers essential. And that can mean any number of different things to a particular reader. They could consider our weather content to be particularly essential to planning their day. They could also consider our content to be essential to planning what they're going to do next Tuesday. And those are very essential things in their own way. One of them obviously has a broader reach on all of us. And that is something that we take very seriously, making sure that we can separate fact from fiction and that we operate in a world where we can be comprehensive and fair. Kelly Lecker, who's our executive editor that joined us in 2022, has done a great job of this. For anybody that has not read her column from this past Sunday's State Journal, I would encourage you to do that. She talks about ways that her team is approaching election coverage next week, which is, of course, a huge deal for all of us, but is certainly in our world a pretty big event. There's a lot of really interesting insight in that column about the ways that her team is fact-checking, the ways that we are trying to make sure that we're delivering not just fact-checking, but also delivering you the candidates' words in their own words, attempting to do our best to separate fact from fiction there. And in our editorial pages, giving you what our editorial board feels is the best decision from their viewpoint. But we feel really strongly that we are delivering a dynamic mix of information through the pages of the State Journal that are going to help you be an informed voter. That is as important as it could possibly get to democracy and the health of democracy. And that's the way that we think about what we do every day. It could be very easy in our world to get caught up in news and content for entertainment value, because entertainment value can deliver eyeballs and can deliver a lot of traffic. Where we can really make an impact is on those opportunities we have to educate. Education may not always have as much sizzle to it when we operate in that educational way, but it is as if not more important than the entertainment piece, because education means unbiased facts, it means unbiased information, and it means making sure we have a more informed populace to make decisions when they go to the voting box or they vote early and make decisions that impact us all.
You really seem to, as a company, be continuing to invest in the educational side of things. I remember an article just a few weeks ago by Kelly, the new editor, saying that you've hired, I think it was 5 or 6 new team members to the State Journal alone to work in different beats that are part of education, to continue the legacy of some of the older reporters. And sorry, Dean, that I said it's Dean Mosman, one of the older reporters. As Dean, but Dean will get into stories and really dive deep into issues of people experiencing homelessness and what development and land use means for our city. And that's just one example. Why is it important that you continue to invest, particularly in this young talent that's coming in, getting the city beats and getting the education beats that help with that education here in the city of Madison?
Yeah, so this is something that Kelly has worked really hard on, and she created, this is a few weeks back, one of the coolest moments I know in my career in this industry, when we brought on at the same time 6 new journalists to join the State Journal team, all females, representing a diverse slate that's very representative of what our community looks like. And the coolest part I think about that is it's really the long-term effect that will have, right? That wasn't a decision that was made for a press release or a LinkedIn post. Those were the best journalists that we could find to help make this community a better place to live, work, and play. The relationship that a company like ours has with the community, though, is a little bit of a complicated one, because we are a mirror of what the community is. We are the first draft of a community's history. We all know, though, that sometimes that's complicated. And you referenced it, Jason, sometimes you'd like to make sure you're not in the pages of the State Journal, or sometimes you do, right? So that is a complicated dynamic, depending on what story is being told. But the beats that were identified, the focus on education is super important. That is one that we have one of our new journalists focusing on, because it was identified as an area of importance. But I think it's also important to point out that does not mean that we get everything right 100% of the time the first time. I think a great example of this, we had some coverage a few weeks back about test scores. This is before the NAEP results came out last week, but this is about statewide testing. And there was kind of an allusion to in that article about test scores holding steady or improving. The fact of the matter is, when we dug deeper into that equity was not necessarily equal across the board. That improvement was not equitable across some of our more underserved populations. So the reason I bring that story up is, in talking to Kelly about that, what the response that she gives is, we need to dig deeper on that story, and we will. So what I would ask of our readers and those that consume our content is to be vocal when you see like there is perspective and context left out of a story, or one that isn't there yet. Be vocal about that, because I think you'll be surprised how often we're willing to go back and dig further and dig deeper and find new sources or find additional sources to bring more depth and more context to a story, because we need to make sure we're talking to the people that we are talking about. And that means that we have to make sure we have every voice represented, every context and perspective represented. And that's not easy work, Jason, but it is work that's worth doing. And it's why we feel like it's why we take our role so seriously, because we do feel like we are the ones that dive deeper on every topic that we can get to. That doesn't always mean the most sizzle, but it does mean the best steak. And that's the kind of the mentality that we bring to the storytelling process.
I like that analogy. Best sizzle.
I don't know that I can take credit for it, but it works.
One of the first times I'd heard it, so I'm putting it on you, Ross. Great quote. Speaking of Let's talk about you. Why did you get into the media? Why is this your career choice? I know you most recently came from some media organizations down in the South. Tell us about why you're interested personally in this work.
So I started my career knowing that I wanted to be a visual storyteller of some sort. I actually came out of school to be essentially a video producer. This was long before there was a really clear idea of how online video would be monetized in any way, and it wasn't really being monetized. But I started as a journalist and did that. What I figured out a couple of years into my journalism track was that there was an opportunity for me to be able to take what I learned with visual storytelling and bring that to bear for brands, and that I could do that in the same arena where I was already existing, and that there was no better arena than these dynamic media organizations going through transformative change for me to be a part of building that change. And so that's been the fuel to my fire for the 15 or so years of my career. And yeah, in September of 2020, that led me from Georgia, where I was with the McClatchy Company for a little over a decade, to go on a new adventure. I have a young family, and my wife and I decided that the timing was right to make a leap. We had never stepped foot in the state of Wisconsin, and had really never really been to the upper Midwest, but the company. We are half owned by Lee Enterprises and half owned by the Cap Times company. So we are really operating essentially like a joint operating agreement here. Lee brought me in to visit in July of 2020. Typical Wisconsin summer day, 78 degrees for our 3-day visit. Beautiful weather, but it was the middle of the pandemic, and so we did have to use our imagination. In fact, we spent a lot of time downtown. You're familiar. I won't rehash what summer of 2020 looked like downtown, but we had to use our imagination a little bit. Flash forward, best decision we've ever made. We absolutely love everything about Madison. We specifically love spending time in downtown Madison. And we've finally been able to see, our imagination. We don't have to use our imagination when we go downtown anymore. So it's been really cool. And it's a little weird after 2 years. I'm still meeting people in person for the first time, which feels weird, but it's very much a reality. But I've just been greeted with a lot of open arms and kindness, and met some great community partners through organizations like Downtown Madison and United Way, and Leadership Greater Madison and the Chamber, and many others have just been great to get me up to speed quickly to know what I need to know to make an impact on this community.
Well, as somebody that came right in the middle of the pandemic, you have done an amazing job hitting the ground running. You and I see each other all the time at events, and I think that's important, right? You are one of the faces of your company and Madison Media Partners and the State Journal and the Cap Times, and it's important. I just am so thankful, though, that you take the time to get out there. All right, so what can our members and our viewers do to help local media and to help Madison Media Partners? What's the best thing that they can do?
Yeah, so get a digital subscription. That's always the best thing we could do. I can make sure you have all the information for that, Jason, in case anybody's interested. We certainly appreciate that. And that goes a long way. While you're at it, you can get a print and a digital subscription if you just want to go nuts. The other way, if you are a local business owner, certainly understanding that we are a full stack marketing agency, and we can do everything that any other agency can do. The difference that we bring to the table is that we're not, the agency space is really crowded, but the audience space is not. And we operate in the audience space where we're delivering an audience that we curate conversations with and really create content for every day. And for a local business wanting to get in front of a really engaged audience, we feel strongly we deliver the best solution for that. So if you're interested and you need a partner in the marketing and promotions PR space, we certainly would love to chat with you about that. Those are certainly the two easiest ways to support what we do at Madison Media.
Let me just put a plug in for getting a subscription, because we have one at home, we have one here at work, and your new digital newspaper, the email that I get every morning at about 6:35, it lays everything out just like the newspaper. It is so slick. You can drill in, you can click on different links. It really makes reading the news so easy, and I don't get the black ink on my fingers, which makes it even better. So
can I say this real quick, Jason? I want to say this for anybody out there that may be a digital subscriber. you do not have to apologize to me when you see me out in public for being a digital subscriber and not a print subscriber. It is okay. I totally get it. It's a tactile experience for some, but I get that a lot. I'll get this, I'll tell people what I am, and then I'll get this kind of side look like I'm actually I read the digital product. And that's fine. Pay for the digital product, right? That's what we appreciate, we need, but it certainly is okay. It's the evolution of our business, and it is certainly something that we're working every day to make sure that we're out in front of. But there's a lot of people that are paying for content. We are optimistic that the kind of subscription premium content economy will work in our favor, that there is a generation right now that is being trained that if you want to pay for good content, whether you're paying Hulu or Peacock or HBO, that good content costs money, and that there's nothing different about that when you're running a news organization with 50 journalists in it. It's just a different type of content, a different type of model, but way more important than any of those others that I described, because we're working to make your community a place that is fair and equitable for everyone, and where everyone can live a fair and content-filled life.
You're absolutely doing that. You do so much to highlight the stories, to highlight the important, not so positive stories, but also the positive stories of what's going on, and that's important work. All right. We're going to highlight you, Ross, with our Fast and Furious 5. All I want you to do, Ross, is whatever the first answer that comes to your mind is, say it. I guess if it's that's the answer.
Probably not the first, but I'll do my best.
Right. All right. Simple questions. Who is your role model?
My role model is a guy named Rodney Mahone, who was my first ever boss, and is still with us, and is doing great work with an organization called the Pivot Fund that is helping. He's still in Georgia. He is helping news organizations that are owned and operated by people of color to make sure that they have fair and achievable growth targets and can maintain sustainable paths. Really, really proud of Rodney and the work that he's done, and is just an all-around great guy that is a tremendous leader. He's certainly my role model.
That's a great role model. All right, your favorite book?
My favorite book is 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
Ooh,
yeah, good one for Halloween, right?
It is. It's very good. All right, what is the one item in your life you cannot live without? Not item, not a person. I don't want to get
item, right? Yeah, the one item in life that I cannot live without. I got a tube of really nice chapstick in my pocket every time, man. Your winter's here, and my Welsh Scottish skin, it doesn't do so. Look at you. See, you got it. You got to have it, right?
Oh, it's thank you.
Well moisturized lips are really the gateway to the soul.
Gateway to the soul. You have some good lines. I like this. My mother was originally from the South as well, so she also has some great lines, different than the ones up here.
This is all I have, Jay. It is all downhill from here for the rest of the day. So you're using all of my good stuff.
All right, what's your favorite downtown Madison restaurant? And we're not here to make any of your advertisers mad. So what's just what you one of the favorite restaurants you have?
How about this? I'm gonna name the first one, literally the first restaurant I ever.
Then we're not offensive.
In downtown Madison, happened to be downtown. I was very fortunate to be taken to Rare on my first evening in town, and had a delightful experience there. So I'll leave it at that.
Good. You either had a very nice friend or a very nice work colleague. That was very nice of them.
Well, they were trying to talk me into moving 1,000 miles north to Wisconsin. So
I'm glad they chose downtown to show off. Yes. Well, thanks to the team at Madison Media Partners. All right, last question for the Fast and Furious 5. Perfect day in Madison. What does it include?
All right, so perfect day in Madison includes a walk through the botanical gardens. It's got to include a walk through the farmers market and the Capitol while you're there, and then you gotta go to the terrace. You gotta go to the terrace, see the sailboats, enjoy the atmosphere, the food. and watch the sunset there. I think that's the perfect day.
I mean, considering almost all of that was downtown, I consider that to be a perfect. You won that answer. All right, you're going to get a 6th bonus question. You're at the Union. What's your favorite Babcock ice cream flavor?
That's a good one. That is a very good one. I'm gonna go. Oh gosh, I'm gonna go with Blue Moon.
Oh,
It's
choice. I was not expecting that.
It's a real experience on the palate. It's a nice wake me up, and my kids like it, so it's nice to share.
And the flavor profile is patent protected, so nobody knows what it is. All of these different ice cream companies, they don't tell you. Some people say it tastes like Fruit Loops, other things. I can't figure it out, but my dad loves it as well. It's his favorite flavor. So, and it does have the added bonus of turning your tongue blue.
It does. You can't hide from having had.
What flavor did you just have? Blue Moon. Well, Ross McDuffie, on that note, president of Madison Media Partners and a great friend to Downtown and a great friend to DMI. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Downtown Happenings podcast. We're going to see you soon for more podcasts to talk about important issues of the day, and a huge, huge thanks to our friends at American Family Insurance for all they've done for Downtown and for DMI. We'll see you on the next podcast. We'll talk to you soon.